This is Sports Charlotte, the podcast about sports in Charlotte. I'm Herb White, editor-in-chief at the Charlotte Post. This is Cameron Williams, who's a staff reporter at the Post. It is Thursday, October 2nd, 2025. October means quite a few things. Obviously, fall is upon us. Leaves are turning colors. Football is in the air. Basketball is on the horizon. And this is still not an AI-generated program. So that's great. But the things that we're going to talk about in this podcast, professional sports, namely Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets. One is off to a really rough start, and the other, well,
they're not there yet.
Only because the season hasn't started. So let's jump in on the Panthers. And everybody around town is howling at what in the world can go wrong in the space of a week after arguably their best game in the Dave Canales era. Lay a total egg a week later in Foxborough. Is it time to just give up the ghost on this group? It's a mirage and just whatever.
You know, sitting here in week, 5 now, you don't want to think that way. But this team is bad, man. I mean, I know he's an FOTP. One of my good friends, Scott Fowler, he wrote in one of his columns that his lead was, it said something to the effect of, this Carolina Panthers team is just bad.
Can't argue there.
I don't see, and I know we talked just briefly about this before we started, how you go from looking like you've completely flipped the page, not just you have flipped the page, like, all right, we're ready to win some ball games now, to looking putrid. And what bugged me, honestly, the most about this game is when I was watching it, they drive right down the field their first drive, make it look easy. It's like, okay, they're still playing with some gumption like they were, the week before. And then flatline.
Mm-hmm.
I can't for the life of me see what changed or what went wrong. Bryce looked confident in that first drive, and from then on out, he looked bad. I mean, not just like Panthers accustomed to being bad. He looked bad.
Like he didn't know what he was doing out there. Bad.
And that just does not make sense to me, because you can't be. I mean, it didn't happen. It wasn't like it happened. Okay, he played great one week, and then there was a fall off. He played great the first drive of that game, and then just decided to plummet. What went wrong in your mind?
Everything went wrong. Keep in mind now, this is the New England Patriots. Mm-hmm. This isn't even one of the elite teams in the NFL.
They got
and
slacked.
When you look that bad, they were out-coached, they were out-manned, they were out-physical. They lost in every phase, literally. And you want to be able to give Dave Canales the benefit of the doubt, but sometimes the handwriting just falls on the wall and you can't help but see it.
They didn't give Frank Reich much benefit of the doubt.
And he was a veteran coach, but all the warning signs were already there, and they just passed on the warning signs.
I mean, I think they're taking this whole quarterback whisperer narrative with Canales to a level that it doesn't need to be taken. The man ain't coaching well. Something's got to give.
And some people may make the argument, and I think it may have been a good one, he's learning on the job. He's still a young-ish coach who's figuring it out in terms of leading an organization.
Well, quit hiring guys like that.
Well, yeah. But my concern, even before he was hired, was he didn't have enough time as a coordinator to really bake. And then you're going to make this dude a head coach 1 year after being a coordinator. We don't even know what that looks like. And I will still stand on it probably until the next coach is hired.
Steve Wilkes pitch.
Yeah. This is the ghost of Steve Wilkes coming back to get the Carolina Panthers.
And if it's not the ghost of James Borrego with the Hornets, it's the ghost of Steve Wilkes with the Panthers.
I'm just saying. Sometimes you don't know how good you have it until you lose it.
Yeah, I can. Well, I can definitely agree with that. More so from the defensive standpoint. Their offense didn't look bad under Wilkes, but their defense sure as heck looked a lot better than what it looked like under Reich and so far under Canales. Um, and I mean, I get there's several facets of that, but ultimately the head coach takes the blame. When things aren't going right, you are the head coach for a reason, and you got to take responsibility for it. Make some tough choices. If the DC ain't working out, or if a particular position coach on the defensive staff ain't working out, give him the boot.
Well, the Panthers have done that before, but they just seem to be behind Ejiro Avero, do or die,
It ain't working.
whatever. And it's that defense.
They made Drake May look like Tom Brady.
Well, Drake May isn't bad, but that's the point.
Yeah.
He isn't bad. He's not the GOAT. And when you cut up a defense like that, it's like, okay, something obviously is not right. So either your personnel is all wrong, your scheme is wrong, or your coaching is wrong. Perhaps
A little bit of all. Yeah.
all are not in sync. And it's the offense as well. Granted, you've got some injuries on the offensive line, but that's what depth is for.
Mm-hmm.
You're choosing a roster that you believe can go the distance even when injuries strike. And even when they had their starting group out there, it wasn't like they were beating up on anybody.
Yeah.
So there's something seriously wrong with the Panthers. And one aberration against Atlanta is not going to quell the howls that are coming out of this market. And like I said, Dave Canales, good guy, keeps a positive attitude, but even he has to know something is seriously broken with this team, and he has not been able to fix it.
I think the receiving corps has got to step up a little bit. I mean, when you have Tedero McMillan, he's all that in a bag of chips, and
still waiting to get that first touchdown, though.
Yeah, he has proven though that he is a bona fide one in this league, just through 4 weeks, at least in my opinion. But he had 62 yards on 4 catches, but then I get there's some injuries in there lingering, but you need to get healthy. But then even when Leggett was on the field in recent games, the man's just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah, and that's your first rounder, and that's why I don't affix all of this stardom to first rounders. Some are going to be busts.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call Xavier Leggett a bust just yet.
He just looks like
that rhymes.
He just looks like he lacks enthusiasm to even be there. And I mean, look, I understand that sometimes playing for Carolina isn't the most glamorous thing in the world. I mean,
it's the NFL.
Did you see the comment that Baker Mayfield made at the press conference that he had the other day? Whew, this one was it was too good not to post. So I put it on my Twitter, but he was asked, "Do you and Darnold reminisce about the good old days in Carolina?" He said, "Reminisce about what?" And then the reporter said, "The good old days in Carolina." He's like, nope.
I don't blame him, because this seems to be the franchise where people rehabilitate their careers. Once you leave here, it's like, okay,
because Baker's pretty good in Tampa Bay, no doubt about it. So
yeah, and Sam Darnold went out and got paid the second he left here, and both of those guys, you can argue, are middling quarterbacks. But
Darnold was a second pick.
There you go again.
I'm just saying. Baker Mayfield was the first. He was top pick, wasn't he? Or towards the top.
But still, my point is, these dudes are not necessarily Pro Bowlers.
Yeah.
And they're certainly not all pro. And so when you go into a draft, that's why I say when you go into a draft and you read and hear about media folks who are just fawning over these dudes, they can't miss. It's like, look, put that out of your mind. All you want to be able to do is make sure that you can have a solid career and then start to winnow folks out from there in terms of, will he be a Pro Bowler? Will he be all pro? Is he a potential Hall of Famer? So just because you're drafted high doesn't make you a stud.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. But look.
And the Panthers, from the looks of it, don't have any studs outside of Harold McMillan. Even
Yeah.
Derrick Brown, who I think is a really good player, and he has been all pro in the past. Everybody's running on Carolina these days. They getting that pressure on them. And so maybe it's the scheme. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, they had what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, no, 6 rushers actually, because I mean Drake May did have the rushing touchdown. Only 104 yards. So you got 6 guys splitting up 104. I mean, that's not terrible.
Yeah, but when you are kicking people around on special teams, it's leaving you with a short field. You don't have to go that far to rack up yards.
Or they just can return it to the house.
Well, there you go. So, no, the offense for New England didn't have to do a whole lot of work. Special teams were taking care of business for them.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, Carolina was thoroughly outplayed. Offense, defense, special teams. And no, what was it? The final statistics, Carolina actually outgained New England, something like that. So, nah. That's why sometimes statistics can be helpful. In this instance, no.
Well, their next 5 games: Dolphins, Cowboys, Jets, Bills, Packers. How many do they win?
Maybe Miami.
I think they're losing this week. Look, Miami's defense is not the best, and I know no Tyreek Hill. Man, that injury looked a lot worse than what it was. Mini rabbit hole. But when he went down, it looked like his leg was broke. Yeah. I don't know if you saw it, but it looked nasty. And turns out it was just. I mean, there was some.
Well,
it was a dislocation, and there was some stuff.
Hurts.
It hurts. I'm just saying, but it wasn't like he had a bone snapped or anything.
Yeah, and then there was the ligament damage.
Well, that's going to do some damage. I mean, that thing looked like a jigsaw puzzle piece.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty horrific injuries over the years on Monday Night Football.
But they've got enough power on offense, Miami does, with Waddle, Devon Achane. My goodness, that boy is quick as lightning. Darren Waller's kind of rejuvenated his career with them. Had the opening touchdown and had another one this past week. So look, I don't know if there is a smooth route to victory. Look, I mean, the point spread's only a point or a point and a half in Miami's favor. Is Carolina one of those teams that just plays better at home?
Well, we are going to find out Sunday because this is the second regular season home game. Miami is no juggernaut. Tua is a turnover waiting to happen. So if the defense can somehow manage to dial up a little bit of pressure,
it's a big if.
Maybe, but yeah, that preseason over under on Carolina and wins, I think it's probably gone down a little bit now. Probably a 4.
Who said that?
Well,
do I get my P back?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, because this is such a gimme. It's a layup, and you got to wonder now.
You were saying you thought they could get over 5.5.
I was. And you would think that the way that they closed last year would give you some indication that maybe they had it figured out, especially on the coaching staff. But apparently, that is not the case. And so I couldn't blame anybody who wanted to bail on the Panthers based on what they've seen over the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, well, like I said, I would have taken the under season total and ran with it. But let's put a bow on this real quick. Enough kitty cat talk. Dolphins, Panthers, -1.5, over under 44.5. Which way you leaning?
44.5, huh? 47 points. Dolphins 27-20.
That's okay. Good, because I was going to say the exact same thing. When I looked at this game earlier in the week, I thought, okay, if it's going to go over that point total, it's because Miami's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll say this. If it's under 44.5 and the Panthers defense does play somewhat decent football, I could see some reality where it's 21-17 Carolina.
Yeah, I would worry about the Panthers' ability to score points on offense.
Yeah, but like I said, that Miami defense is not great.
Of course, now it could just turn out to be a bunch of turnovers too,
Yeah.
which will depress the scoring.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying.
I will say, if you're going to parlay this game, betting advice from triple, soon to be quadruple P here. If you're going to take the Dolphins, go ahead and take them with the point spread, -1.5, and take the over. That's going to be your best return. But if you're going to take the Panthers, with it being a 1.5 spread, I don't know if there's value on taking the spread there. I would just take them to win and go with the under 44.5.
Fair enough.
Shameless plug from the quadruple P sportsbook. Okay. Well, let's go to the hard court, shall we?
Yes, let's do that. And the Hornets. The other reason for folks around here to clutch pearls and wonder why in the world can you be so unlucky. But training camp is underway down in South Carolina.
And no, I did not travel to Charleston to watch it.
But you did go to Media Day.
I did.
And what all did you learn, pray tell?
I learned that LaMelo Ball, his biggest takeaway from watching Conca-Nipple was that he had a lot of bounce. That was a soundbite right there. He said, I'm just going to paraphrase because I don't remember the direct quote, but he was asked, what surprised him most about Conca-Nipple so far? And he's like, yeah, he got a little bit of bounce. He's like, I saw the movie White Men Can't Jump, but that man was jumping all day. I thought that was hilarious.
He may be the most surprising Hornet on this roster.
I think he really could be. And look, I know there were a lot of people not super high on him, and I'll give this man his props. He called it. He called it early. It's something that I thought could happen, but I just didn't know all the ins and outs of how the draft interviews were going with Ace Bailey, and it ended up being that Conca-Nipple was the guy, and Herb called it. I'd say about 2 or 3 days earlier than me, but he thought that he was gonna be a Hornet. I'm like, wow, that's considering where he was projected in the draft. He rose relatively quick, and it'll be interesting to see just how he can perform at a much, I don't want to say a lot faster pace, but the NBA is faster pace in college. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
It's elite.
But what he's going to be able to do floor spacing wise, that's another thing that LaMelo and his wonderful media training and his one sentence answers talked about was, the floor spacing for real, that's going to be the biggest thing. That was his quote.
Well, but it's not necessarily off base.
It's not. And I mean, it's kind of like I said, I think his ability to stretch the floor shooting wise is going to be able to open up driving lanes for, Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller, who I know we'll talk about him in a minute, and just overall LaMelo's ability to create. Because LaMelo's best when he's dishing dimes. There's no question about that. I think he can score. People know he can score, but if he only has to score maybe 23 to 25 but can dish out 10 to 11 assists, that's going to make the Hornets offense a lot more efficient than him scoring 35 and only getting 5 assists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other elephant in that room is durability for LaMelo Ball.
Looked a little girthier.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that can only help because at 6'7" and whatever he was soaking wet last year, and the year before that, and the year before that, it just doesn't set you up well for the bumps and bruises of the NBA. And usually the guys who do the best over a sustained period of time, they grow not only in their skill levels, but physically. I mean, you take a photograph of some of these guys coming out of college and just joining an NBA team, and then you fast forward 5 or 10 years, and it's like, where did that dude go?
Yeah.
And LaMelo Ball had never been that guy. He was still the same scrawny fella that he was when the Hornets drafted him.
Well, I mean, look at a quick rabbit hole moment. Have you seen the transformation of Zion Williamson?
Yeah, he went the other direction.
That boy has had to have lost 30 pounds.
Well, but
good for him.
Yeah. And now if he can just manage to keep his mind on the hoopage, he will do better. But in terms of LaMelo Ball, I think that anything that will help him in terms of flexibility, strength, all that stuff, that's all basketball requires now. You've got to have some muscle in order to really succeed at the highest of the elite level. And I think that if he can make it through an entire season, that will set the Hornets up very well. I don't necessarily have any issues with Brandon Miller. I think he is moving on pace in terms of his development. But health and physicality are two things that the Hornets need in the worst possible way. Because it's not like these dudes are built to get to the playoffs and make a deep run. For this franchise, just making it to the play-in is a step in the right direction. Shout out to James Borrego.
Yeah, that's your shameless Borrego plug.
Absolutely.
Goes to James Borrego fast.
I'm just saying, I believe in karma. And when you have franchises that don't necessarily do folks right, things happen.
That is fair. I wonder if our publisher Gerald will send me down to Charleston for the preseason opener.
Charleston's a lovely city.
That means no. No, but in all seriousness, it will be nice when they get back inside Spectrum Center. I know, I believe it was Peterson talked about that a little bit. Renovations will be done hopefully sooner rather than later. But I don't think the intention right now is to play a preseason game in Spectrum. I know they've got one in Charleston, one in Greensboro. And if I'm not mistaken...
And I think that's a great way of spreading some love because you play all your regular season home games in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Get out and try to make some fans in the Carolinas. And I think that can only serve them well in terms of giving folks an opportunity to sample the product for what it's worth.
Yeah.
And build something with them.
Well, you brought up a point about building a fan base. I wonder how many people in Charleston are Charlotte Hornets fans versus Atlanta Hawk fans.
Or even NBA fans, period.
Well, I'm just saying if they had to choose an allegiance, I mean, they're probably mileage-wise closer to Atlanta.
Yeah, but do the Hawks have enough juice to really attract your attention and your allegiance if you live in South Carolina?
What?
Probably not.
You could ask the same thing for the Hornets.
Which is why it's good that the Hornets are going into South Carolina. So, yeah. Now, do the Hawks do that? I'm not sure. But I think that if the Hornets are really paying that some attention, take it on the road. And maybe even do that on the regular going forward. Because, okay, if you're talking about 2 games that you're losing at Spectrum Center in the preseason versus the potential of attracting people to go to games in the regular season, I think that's a measurement worth taking.
Yeah, that's fair. Wanted to talk about Brandon Miller. We won't beat you up with the Hornets too much because still preseason to go before we get kicked off with the regular season. But the key of getting Brandon Miller back, just how big is that in your opinion?
Huge. Because I sincerely believe that Brandon Miller is the best player on this team, and he's your lead dog.
That's bold.
I will stick with that.
Franchise players, LaMelo. Brandon Miller is expendable.
LaMelo is good for business.
And what is the NBA?
It's a business. Okay, I will give you that. But if you're talking about versatility, if you really, really need a bucket right now, and not just that, but that leadership capability, I think Brandon Miller is your guy.
That one I can agree on. But I mean, you talk about get a bucket now and versatility. LaMelo's got that. And look, I'm not the biggest LaMelo Ball fan in the world. Anybody that's read my Bugs Life columns know that. I think he is the franchise player, and reason being, not only is he good for business, but he can facilitate an offense. I don't think Brandon Miller can facilitate an offense. It's not his position.
I can give that point, but on the other hand, Brandon Miller plays defense at a higher level too. So if you're talking about a two-way player who can get you a bucket when you need it and provide some leadership. Now, keep in mind, this is his third season. He's growing into it. And so that's why I say he's their best player overall. Let's put it like that. In terms of what he can do on the field, on the court.
Too much football talk.
As well as in the locker room and on the sideline. I just like the way that he is developing. And, if nothing else, he gives off the vibe that he really, really cares, as opposed to the more laid back.
That could just be persona.
Well, yeah, and that very well could be true. But sometimes that persona rubs off.
Touche. I'm going to say the Hornets are in a position this year where if they're healthy, the only question mark, and I'm not going to get into it because it's a whole other topic, but the only question mark I'd have would be at the center position. They got Mason Plumlee now, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Musa. I don't know which one you go with. Look, if defensively, Musa Diabate is all that.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Kalkbrenner, also good shot blocker, rim protector. He's got the tools of having a 7'2", 7'3", height to help him. Mason Plumlee's serviceable.
Yeah. He's serviceable, but if you're talking about the most athletic of the bigs,
that's Musa.
Yeah, and followed by Kalkbrenner, but he's kind of an open book at this point. He hasn't played an NBA game that counts for anything.
I think with Ryan, what you see is what you get. I don't think there's going to be many surprises out of him. He is going to be your rim protector. He's going to be a guy that, if he has to, Ryan's proven he can shoot. I don't think he's going to be burning down the nets from range by any stretch of the means. But look, if you leave him open, shoot the ball.
Yeah,
he can do it.
And if he can establish enough of a shot from outside the paint that folks have to honor it, that opens up a brand new frontier in terms of what that offense can do. Because you could then go to a 5-out. It's like, okay, well, now
seems like I thought the NBA is 5-out for the most part.
Well, yeah, but Hornets haven't been able to do that because they've never had that kind of center before. And if you've got a big who can shoot it,
unless you're playing Grant Williams at the 5,
but then you're really
that's just small ball.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another aspect of it that we haven't talked about is the injured from last year. Obviously, Miller and Ball were injured, but I think Grant Williams' return can be very helpful. He gives them some physicality, even at 6'6", 6'7", and what that looks like for them. Plus, there's that leadership because he really, really cares.
Shoot, I'd love to see a small ball lineup with Williams in there. If you're playing a fast-paced team that doesn't have a 6'10" plus center, I know there's not too many of those in the league, but say you're playing Sacramento. Sacramento, running gun team, Domantas Sabonis is 6'9", and he run well. That boy can pass. Anyway, I digress. He's a really good center, but he doesn't overwhelm people with height. Put Grant in there at 6'7" and have him guard a center position, and then play with more pace. That's one thing they talk about, wanting to play with pace. Well, if you could play small, put him at 5, Miles at 4, I guess Brandon at 3, and then LaMelo and Colin Sexton at 1 and 2. Shoot, I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Well, there could be some potential, but can you do it for 82 games?
I don't think you would ever want to play a 6'8", 6'7" center for 82 games.
No, I'm talking about in terms of being able to have all those pieces available for 82.
Well, in today's NBA, that's not the case for any team.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying. I know the Hornets have had the injury bug, pun and totally intended, but you see even guys on the Lakers or the Celtics, they rest or load management.
Mm-hmm.
That term gets on my nerves. Man, you signed up to play the games. Play the games. I understand an 82-game schedule. It's a lot of games. But you didn't hear Jordan complaining about 82 games. He might have missed one or two
That
here
was
and there.
also 800 years ago.
That wasn't 800 years ago. That man is the GOAT. You can take your Bill Russell talk elsewhere.
But does he have 11 rings?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
He wasn't playing milkman.
And Bill Russell wasn't either.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Shout out to Bill Russell. Rest in peace.
Yeah, R.I.P. the fifth best center of all time. At any rate, let's bring this podcast to a close. I'll shut this one down.
Please do.
Before we get on our Bill Russell talk, we had a great time MLK Day talking about Bill Russell at the Hornets game. But go to charlottepost.com, our lovely, nice, pristine website, where up at the top right, you'll see a subscribe button. You also see a donate button. We like money. Y'all like money, but y'all also like news. We produce news. Do us a favor. Give us a subscription. You'll have a copy of the paper. You can even subscribe to our e-edition or just donate. If you like what we do, if you like consuming it online, don't necessarily want to have the paper, even though I'm old school. Having a paper copy is just, it's old school. It's the best. But even if you just like consuming online, throw us some money that way, donate to us, and also subscribe to the sports newsletter. Comes out every week.
Yep, came out this morning.
Came out this morning from this guy. It'll go right to your email every Thursday morning. You can read it when you get to the office or with your morning cup of coffee. All that said, have a great rest of the week. That is Herb, the editor-in-chief. I'm Cam, the staff reporter who writes all about sports. Thanks for watching and listening, and be sure to check out the podcast on SoundCloud and wherever you get your podcasts.